All right, let's talk about something you hear thrown around all the time, but maybe don't really think about: corporate governance. It sounds kind of dry, right? But stick with me. This is the hidden system, the secret code that decides whether a giant company soars for decades or just, crashes and burns in a huge scandal.
So let's just start with this really basic question. When a company gets massive, I mean big enough to literally change our lives, who's holding its power in check? Who makes sure it's not going off the rails? Well, finding the answer to that question, that's the whole point of corporate governance.
Before we dive deep into the corporate stuff, let's just zoom out for a second. The word governance itself, at its absolute core, it just means oversight. That's it. It's about having a system to, well, watch over things, to guide them, and to make sure they stay on the right path.
Okay, so how do we take that simple idea of oversight and plug it into the business world? That's where we get to what you can think of as the company's official rulebook.
And yeah, that's pretty much what corporate governance is. It's the whole set of rules, the practices, the processes, basically the entire system that a company uses to direct and control itself. It's the framework for how every big decision gets made.
So why bother with all this? You might be surprised, but the main goal is actually super simple. It's to make sure the company actually does what it sets out to do. And not just that, but to do it effectively and, ethically.
But look, it's not just about getting things done. At its very heart, corporate governance is all about one thing: power. It's the system that lays out who gets a voice, how loud that voice is, and where the lines are drawn.
So who are all these people sharing the power? We call them stakeholders. And you might think that just means shareholders, the people who own stock, right? Nope, it's way bigger than that. It's the employees, the community where the company sets up shop. Heck, it's even the environment. All of these groups have a real stake in making sure the company is run the right way.
Okay, so we've got the what and the who down. But that just leads to the biggest question of all.
How does this whole thing actually work? I mean, it's easy to talk about it in theory, but what does it really look like? How do you put all these ideas into action day to day?
Well, it turns out you can break down the whole structure of good governance into 4 key pillars. Seriously, think of them like the 4 giant columns holding up a building. They're what keeps the whole thing standing strong.
So, pillar number 1, checks and balances. This one is all about making sure no single person or group can have all the power. It's designed to spread that power around so that decisions get debated and challenged, not just made by one person on a whim.
Pillar 2 is compliance. Now, if checks and balances are about managing power inside the company, compliance is about playing by the rules on the outside. It's as simple as that, following the laws, the regulations, all the official stuff.
Then you've got pillar 3, accountability, and this one is absolutely huge. This is the pillar that connects everything the company does back to all those stakeholders we talked about earlier. It means the company can't just do things, it has to be ready to answer for them, to its investors, its workers, and all of us.
And finally, pillar number 4, risk management. See, good governance isn't just about cleaning up messes. It's about being smart and proactive. This is the part where you're constantly looking ahead, trying to spot potential problems on the horizon, and figuring out how to handle them before they blow up into a full-blown crisis.
Okay, so we have these 4 pillars holding everything together inside the company. But what's the real-world impact? Why should we care about what happens inside a boardroom?
Yeah, we've been talking about rules and frameworks which can feel a little abstract. So let's ask the most important question. Why does any of this complex system actually matter to you and me?
Well, the first really big reason is sustainability. Think about it. Good governance pushes a company to think beyond just the next 3 months of profit. It's about building something that's meant to last, something that can thrive for the long haul and create real, lasting value. And that leads right into the second big idea: being a good corporate citizen. A company with strong governance doesn't just see itself as a money-making machine. It understands that it's part of a bigger community, and it has a real responsibility to do good, not just for its own bank account, but for society. So when this whole system is actually working the way it's supposed to, the results are real. You can see them. Power doesn't get abused because people know they'll be held accountable. And the company becomes a force for good, actively trying to avoid doing harm, and maybe even making things a little better for people and the planet.
So when you boil it all down, that's what corporate governance is. It's the system of checks and balances designed to keep these incredibly powerful entities responsible. Which leaves us with a pretty big and honestly a pretty scary final thought. If this is the system that keeps all that corporate power in check, what happens to all of us
when it fails.